Hi, everyone. I'm Maggie Farley with the Google News Lab. Thanks for joining us today on our last training of 2020. Goodbye, 2020. Today, we are going to go over some of our verification tools. 2020 has been an unprecedented year, and it's been rife with misinformation and disinformation, whether it's about politics or protests or the pandemic. And in 2021, I'm sorry, we're just going to be seeing more of the same, especially around coronavirus and the coronavirus vaccine. So today we're going to teach you some tools to detect misinformation and we're going to play a little game trying to geolocate something, which is a very useful skill in detecting and defending against disinformation. So I'm part of the Google News Lab, which is under the umbrella of the Google News Initiative. And it's got 3 parts. And I'm with the first pillar, which is a team of journalists around the world who are training journalists like you in digital tools to help make your job a little bit easier, a little bit faster, and help you be a little bit more creative and do the hard reporting. Today, we are going to do the verification challenge, which is the last in our series of trainings. We've done a 6-week series of trainings, and don't worry if you missed it, you can go back to watch it on demand on YouTube. And if you'd like to see some of the other tools, we've got dozens of tools for journalists on the g.co/news training website. And they are self-paced modules, 5 to 10 minutes at a time, or you can select a course. And we've got all sorts of interesting things there now. There's a brand new one on machine learning, and you get to even train a model. There's data verification, data visualization, and GeoEarth, all sorts of fun things to play with. So over the holidays, you got extra time, learn some new skills. So last week on Twitter, I posted a picture on Twitter and said, can you find out where this was taken and where the photographer was standing? And so answers have been pouring in, and at the very end, we'll kind of walk through how different people found the answer. First, we're going to look at some other verification tools, and tools I'll show you along the way can also be used to solve this challenge. Okay, one of the first stops you can make when you are examining a fake claim or news that you think might not be real, say you saw something coming over on social media, you can go to g.co/fact-checking, which is a dedicated search site made by Google to aggregate other organizations' fact-checking. So Google is not doing the fact-checking, it is gathering all the fact-checking in one place for you to check out. So for example, if you're looking at coronavirus vaccine, it would take you to all of the fact checks on coronavirus. Let's see if we can just look at that live. Whoops, getting ahead of myself. Okay, so you just go to Fact Check Explorer and type in coronavirus vaccine and see what's been searched lately. So this is a trending claim that a nurse collapsed after she got the coronavirus vaccine. And many sites are using this to claim that the vaccine is unsafe. But it turns out that she was not reacting to what was in the vaccine, she was reacting to the needle. And if you click through on these stories, you can find out what exactly is going on. And all of the sources here have gone through a protocol and met certain standards so they can be approved on this site. You can also set the languages just to English or to all languages, and that will bring you fact checks from around the world. And it includes fact check sites in Mexico and Indonesia and all over the place. So that's sort of one-stop shopping when you're just beginning your verification journey. Another thing to realize about images and video is that it doesn't have to be a deep fake. It doesn't have to be sophisticated. Sometimes it can just be taken out of context, edited deceptively, framed in a certain way, recycled, or it can actually be used, photoshopped and things to maliciously deceive you. And so we use a couple of tools, and we'll go back to this now. We'll go back to this later. Sorry. We have a tool called Invid, which has been taken over by We Verify, and they are great tools for searching both video and static images. And they even have a little browser extension that you can click on, and we'll use that in action later. Another way to verify video is a tool called watchframebyframe.com, and it lets you upload a video and then slow it down, so you can just press the space bar and watch it 1 frame per second, or much slower or much faster than that. So that's great for verifying video, slowing it down so you can see what's actually happening. It's really good for police body cam footage, and so on. Okay, so when you come to social media, which is the main place that misinformation and disinformation is spreading, we do something called a social audit. And I'll tell you who is really good at this. Teenagers. When my daughters are friended by a follower, someone asks to follow them on Instagram, they instantly go through this very quick mental process. Who is that? Why are they following me? Why are they trying to friend me? What kind of account do they have? How long have they had it? Do they have original content, or are they just retweeting or reposting stuff? And so they're just going through this very quick mental calculus, and they do it in seconds. And so journalists would do well to learn from the teenagers who are on social media all the time to ask these questions. What is the source? When was the account set up? Is it new? And what else have they posted? So just go through these questions, and as you investigate the account, it can tell you quite a lot. So that is the human instinct instant analysis, but there are also tech tools for this. They're designed to spot the bots. So there are a lot of automated accounts posing as real people that are just used to amplify a message or to do a coordinated attack or a coordinated campaign. So how do you spot the bot? Well, a lot of the posts will have similar wording or memes or hashtags. They post around the clock, and they're connected to similar accounts. But you don't have to investigate it all yourself. There are a couple of tools that help you do it very quickly. And one is developed by Indiana University called the Botometer, or Botometer, depending how you want to say it. And it does an audit of a Twitter account for you. You have to link to it through your own Twitter account, but you can audit any Twitter account. And then it color codes the users by from red, which is likely bot behavior. And they define that as more than 75 tweets a day, or tweeting around the clock, or just tweeting from 9 to 5 like it's their job. Only amplifying tweets. So they're not creating any original content. They're just blasting out stuff that someone else has created, and often in a coordinated way. And so it can measure the users in the account and tell how many are bots or exhibiting bot-like behavior. Some humans are so avid about their social media, they can be detected as bots. Another good tool for doing that kind of thing is Twitonomy. And it also shows you if they're tweeting around the clock and never sleeping, probably a bot. But one of my favorite tools from Indiana University is called Hoaxy, and it shows the spread of viral information on Twitter. And it shows you, it's really fascinating because it's animated. and it can show you the very first tweet and how it spread, and all the nodes in the network, and the red dots, again, are bots. And so you can very easily see who the nodes of the network are and how information spreads and how quickly. Remember that one had it has a timeline as well. And you can share it on social media, you can embed it in your website, and you can also download the data in a CSV file to combine with other data if you're a data journalist. Another fun tool is called Who Tweeted It First. If you're looking for the very original tweet that started that whole viral spread of information, you can just put in the keywords of the hashtag here on controlq.org/first. Okay, so now we're coming to one of the most useful tools for searching for images and their provenance from the internet. And just like you can search words on Google, you can also search images. And you can do it several ways. You can go to images.google.com. You see that little camera there. You can drag and drop an image from your own computer. You can paste the image URL or upload it from your computer. But even easier, and I'm going to actually go to the image that I posted for the verification challenge so we can try this. And I think that we've got the link there if you want to play along, the ibb.co link. Okay, so when you encounter a link on your computer, you can just hover over it and do a 2-finger click on a MacBook trackpad, or a right click, or a control click. If you're using a Mac, right click on a PC, and then you get this menu box pop up. And if you go right here to search Google for image, if you click that, you will see on Google all the other instances of this image. I have a couple of other things here. Here's the web extension that I was talking about from InVid, which is now WeVerify. And it will not only help you magnify it, which can be useful in this case because we're going to be looking at the image more carefully. It does image forensics, and it will do reverse image searches on a number of different surfaces. Google, Yandex, Bing, TinEye, Baidu, Reddit, all at the same time. And then you can compare the different results. But let's start with search Google for image. So just click on that. And what do we get? It has the original image up here. It has visually similar images. And then it has pages that include the matching images. So this isn't going to help us, in this case, investigate that picture so much because it's only retweets of my original tweet with the image challenge, with the verification challenge. But if we go back, we can do the reverse image search on all, and then you'll get a bunch of windows popping up over here, and they will do their own image searches. So we'll come back to them in a minute and see how they have different results from what the Google image search, and I don't want to give away the answer too quickly. Okay, so that was an example of the excellent Chrome plugin from WeVerify, and it helps quite a bit, especially with geolocation. So geolocation is the art of using all sorts of geographic tools, maps, and calculators of where the shadows fall, and so on, to help you identify where something actually happened. And journalists can use this a lot in investigations. And there's a wonderful example of geolocation from Forensic Architecture's investigation into the Beirut explosion. And so we're just going to have a look at the first minute of that, about how they geolocated the images and investigated the huge explosion at the Beirut port. So my colleague Michael is going to...
Shortly after 6 p.m. on August the 4th, an explosion ripped through the port of Beirut. It killed more than 200 people, wounded over 6,500, and destroyed large parts of the city. Forensic architecture was invited by Madame Mass to examine open source information, including videos, photographs, and documents, to provide a timeline and a precise 3D model to help investigate the events of August the 4th. The model is available via this link. The first photograph of the warehouse on fire was uploaded to Twitter at 5:54 p.m. We carefully geolocated this photograph by identifying the key buildings and calculated the camera's cone of vision.
Okay, so that's just the first minute of this video, but I encourage you to watch the whole thing. It's forensic architecture. And it just is beginning to show you how they could use landmarks in the videos and use them for geolocation. And so here's an example of some landmarks you can look for when you're beginning your geolocation search. If you look at the environment, it can reveal a lot of clues and reference points for you to go back to. You can look at the background and you can notice things like the skyline or the license plates. All sorts of little details can give you clues to help you geolocate. Okay, so let's go and look at our image again. All right, what do you see in this image that might give you a clue? Let me try to make it a little bit bigger. Yeah. So one thing you might look at is the skyline here. And you'll notice that there's water, there's hills and there's water, there's a slope. Where do you think we are in the world? This house looks quite Mediterranean. This is a Tudor style house. This one has solar panels. So you might think, look at the Tudor style house and think, oh, maybe we're in Europe. But you've got this mix of architecture, so maybe not. Now look at the cars. Where are they parked? Which side of the street are they driving on? They're right-hand drive cars. So that narrows it down quite a bit as well. It could be the UK, but that doesn't look like the UK. Let's zoom in a little bit more. Okay. If you can zoom in a little bit more, and I'm having sudden trouble. You can see that there's stop written on the street. So that's a pretty good sign that we're in an English-speaking country. And let's actually try InVid, see if we can magnify it a bit. Okay, so here are the tools. Here's the magnifying glass. Okay. Okay. There we go. We're zooming in, trying to see the stop sign. We can really zoom in. It's a bit pixelated. You could see a license plate and writing on that truck. It's too pixelated for us right now, but we do have the stop sign. We do have the parking sign to the left of the black truck there, and it looks like it could be an American style. And so let's think a bit. What has a nice steep slope, is in a bay, and has hills on the other side? So it could be Australia. It could be a number of places. So let's try something else. What else do we see here? Let's zoom in there. I see the span of a suspension bridge. Aha. And I also see some flags. And one looks like the American flag with the stripes. And one looks like it is red with a blue stripe in the middle. It's a little bit furled. It's hard to tell. You can also look at the trees. Sometimes even the clouds can give you a hint about the atmosphere and the environment. Now we're also looking for landmarks and reference points. So the bay would be a good reference point, the hills, and the fact that it's on a slope. And this kind of bridge-like street is also a good thing to look for. So one thing we could do is go to Google Maps and start searching Google Maps for these kind of coastlines and bays and places on a hill. Rio de Janeiro, no, we know it's in English, an English-speaking country. But there are some other things that you can do. Let's see what Yandex came up with. Now, Yandex is a Russian site. And remember when we did that We Verify Chrome extension, we got all sorts of different choices. There was Yandex, Baidu from China, Tinai, didn't get any matches. But Yandex is interesting because it identifies those reference points in the photograph. So if you don't get an exact match on the photograph, you can zoom in and you say, oh, what kind of plant is this? And you know what? I'm going to translate the page. This is a really useful tool, Google Translate. I have it in my as a Chrome extension. So I'm just going to click on Google Translate and say, translate this page. And it will change it from Russian into English for me. Okay, so let's zoom in on this house, the Tudor style house, and see what it tells us. San Francisco. It's identified this whole place as San Francisco. So that's a big help. All right, so we know that this picture is in San Francisco. What else did we find out? Has similar images, the same kind of trees. What about this very building? Oh, okay. Sites where the image occurs. Well, this is a pretty good clue. Let's click through and see what it says. And we'll just change that to English. Okay, so that we found out that that Tudor building is a Gothic villa once owned by Nicolas Cage. And if you scroll down through the story, it will even tell you the address. So he put it on the market, and that's why it's on the internet. Nicolas Cage. So if you read the story, it tells you that the address is 898 Francisco Street. Well, that's a really great shortcut. So we can go to 898 Francisco Street and then click on the satellite view or click on the street view. And we're on street view right now. And go there and just take a 360-degree look around. And voila, there's the white building that was part of the challenge. It said, what is this white building? Okay, it doesn't look like there are any flags flying today when that picture was taken, but we can go to the street. Oh, and there is our bridge-like street. Remember the original? So we're looking at it from the other side, it appears. All right, let's see what else we can find. Oh, there's a Cinquecento. That throws us off. The Cinquecento in front of the Mediterranean-style building. Oh, okay, now we have flags. So let's go up the street a bit. So on Google Street View, you can see the little man. You can go anywhere where the street is blue. And you just click and it takes you up the street. And it takes you, oh, here's the door. Side door. It looks like an official building. And the flag is obscuring the nameplate, but we can also see right here, it's very light, but it looks like there's a Norwegian flag and it looks like the name is in Norwegian. So now we have the address, see it up here, 2443 Hyde Street. We can type that in and see what we get. Okay, Google's typing better than I am at this point. All right, we don't have the name yet, but we do know it's something Norwegian on Hyde Street in San Francisco. Oh, and voila. It's the Norwegian Seamen's Church. So that was a bit of a red herring with the Norwegian flag, made us think that we are maybe somewhere else. But then you can click in here and you can also get the Street View 360. Okay, so that was the first part of the challenge. Where was this photo taken? So we found out it's in San Francisco, and the name of this white building is the Norwegian Seamen's Church. Or if you were clever and could see that nameplate, you could translate it or just even use the Norwegian name. All right, but now let's try to figure out where that photo was taken. So let's go back to our Google Street View. And remember how they did the geolocation in the Beirut bomb example. They found a building, and then they looked at different angles from the building. So remember, we found that this bridge-like structure on the street here, the photographer was taking the picture from the other side. And if you look over here, you see a staircase. And so let's see if we can just click right over there and where it will take us. Or we might have to just go back to the street view, to the map, and hop over that park. Let's go here. Here's the park. Okay, come into focus. We're at 360. Oh, San Francisco's so pretty. There's the stairs. We're on the stairs. Oh, and from right here, if we can zoom in, there's the photograph. Oops. Let's do it this way. There's our photograph. Looks like the photographer zoomed in quite a bit. Let's compare it to the original. Oops. There we go. All right, so those are some examples of geolocation. How you can use Street View. You can also go to Google Maps and search by satellite, or go to Google Earth. So this is Russian Hill Park, it says. Let's go to Google Earth. And you can open up Google Earth and put in an address and it will search for you. It's going to take a second to load. click on the magnifying glass. We're going to look at Russian Hill in San Francisco. And I'm cheating a little bit. I'm letting you go ahead. But if we had just identified it as San Francisco in general, isn't that cool, the way it zooms in from outer space? And there it is, circling. And then, you know, we can zoom in. And look around. Lombard Street is that famous curvy street where people go up and down. And you can see beautiful views of the sea. This is basically the view of Lombard Street. And so it looks like the photographer walked up Lombard Street to the top of Russian Hill. And we can also just look for the Norwegian Siemens Church. And go from there. So there's a Norwegian Siemens Church. There's that open green space. And there's Russian Hill Park. So let's zoom in there. And try to find that. There's the staircase. And this is, it happens to be, on our street view, we can find out what the street names are, and it's where Larkin Street turns into Francisco Street. Oops. And so this is a fun tool to play with, and you can look at all of San Francisco. So if you were starting at the very beginning and you were looking for landmarks and seascapes or the bridge that went over, that was a big clue. And so people were writing in and saying, oh, I identified the bridge using a tool that I just identifies infrastructure. And this is such a fun, Google Earth is such a fun tool because you can do all sorts of things. And you can even, when you're doing other journalistic stuff, you can set points and fly from point to point, which is really cool in itself. Okay, so for geolocation reference, remember we investigated these two buildings. We looked at all the clues in the environment, the cars, the license plates, the writing, the street signs. And if you wanted to start at the very beginning and fly around the world from Google Earth and try to look at reference points and structures like that, but we got a shortcut from Yandex and identified that building, which happens to belong to Nicolas Cage, and then plugged in the address and went from there. So no detail is too small. You never know what you might find. Nick Cage's house, and so on. So here's Google Street View again. Okay, so let's announce the winners. So Basil, I didn't ask for full names. We don't want your full name. We just want to give you a shout out. So Basil was the first one to respond. And he was very close, but he didn't get the exact spot where the photograph was taken, which was from the top of the stairs, and from the top of the stairs, and not from the building that he thought it was. Matthew thought it was taken from a crane because it looked like it was way up high and it was really zoomed in. So that's possible. But John S. Smurf, and Andrea is the one who was the first one to find Nick Cage's house. Big shout out to you guys. You did it very quickly and you did it very accurately. And the tools they used were Google Earth, Google Maps, reverse image search using Google reverse image search and Yandex. Yandex turned out to be the key to this one because it let us zoom in on a very particular place. And so congratulations, you did a great job. Okay, I just wanted to point out a couple of other good sources on for verification. firstdraftnews.org is one of the standard bearers of verification in journalism. So check out their website. And they have a dashboard that you can look at every day. And it does a roundup of what's trending on Twitter and what are the top rumors that you should look at, they've investigated, and so on. So that's a great resource. Another one with open source intelligence tools is Bellingcat. And they've done a lot of really amazing investigations, including the downing of the airliner and the poisoning of by the Russian agents of another Russian. And so they have how to investigate TikTok, how to use reverse image search, Russian disinformation, locust swarms even. These are two really great tools to check out. So if you want to go back and look at some of the tools that we went over today for verification and detecting and defending against disinformation, check out our g.co/news training website. And we hope to see you next year. If you would like a walkthrough of any of those tools that you can see on the website or a course, go ahead and contact us at newslabsupport@google.com, and we can set up a training over Google Meet with your news group. All right. Thanks so much for joining us today. I hope you have happy holidays and a better 2021. Cheers.